Welcome back. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and I have with me today Nick Gorham, a former representative from Foster, Gloucester, and West Coventry,
Yes.
Western Coventry,
Yes.
who fought really hard when he was a representative to bring about the very good reform of a separation of powers.
Yes.
And now he's kind of joining the battle a little bit for ethics reform. You had mentioned, we were talking about the blackout period.
Yes.
Which in the speaker's version of the ethics law
Yes.
would run from June to November,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So we're talking about more than 100 days.
Under that law, even if even if the people approve Speaker Mattiello's proposal to amend the Constitution, that is, to restore Ethics Commission power over legislators, no one could file a complaint against a legislator or anyone else, town council members, nobody who is running for office, for public office. You couldn't file a complaint against any of them between the filing deadline in June and the election in November. It's almost a 4-month period.
4-month period, over 120 days. It's a long time.
It's a long time, and it would deprive the Ethics Commission of its ability to do its job during the most important time.
They'd be sitting there twiddling their thumbs, right?
And I want to say one other thing about the Speaker's proposal. First, he is trying to restore Ethics Commission authority over legislators. I give him a point for that. That's okay.
Yep.
That's good. That's good.
right.
But I didn't hear in the last 4 years or so that we've been debating the Ethics Commission's authority over legislators, or lack of it. I never heard anyone clamoring for a blackout period.
No.
It never even came up. And then
No.
suddenly, like a bolt of lightning, when the Speaker put this idea forward, suddenly he posited that there was this huge problem with frivolous complaints. I want to tell you a little more about the so-called problem with frivolous complaints. When I was in the House, every single year, the Democrat majority would propose a bill that required the Ethics Commission to fine people who filed complaints that the Ethics Commission deemed frivolous. Okay? That were dismissed and had no merit. And that's what presumably that's what Speaker Mattiello is talking about, those same types of complaints. Every single year that bill to fine people for frivolous complaints came up, the ACLU would come and testify, along with a lot of other people who really want to protect the First Amendment,
Sure.
that this will have a chilling effect on people filing complaints, because you could be fined.
Well,
you could be
and
fined.
Often there's an indication that something is amiss. But to get down to the documents and get all of the information, you'd have to have a subpoena or something, right? It's really difficult, especially, I would say, in this administration, just for my getting that APRA request out, which is the access to public records.
Right.
So a person might have an indication that something is amiss. That a legislator or somebody, elected official, is doing something that might be questionable, but can't get at all of the information. They still should be allowed to bring it to the Ethics Commission and say, can you get the information and check this out?
Right. Now, every year
Not being frivolous about it, but because they have a real serious concern.
Right. Well, here's what happened with those bills that were proposed to fine people for frivolous complaints. Every year they were defeated. The ACLU and many other people testified this is going to chill people away from ever filing ethics complaints. Look at what we're doing now. We're solving that same problem, if there is a problem, and I doubt there really is a problem with frivolous complaints, but just supposing there is, what are we doing? Instead of having fines now, the remedy is, instead of chilling speech, we're deep freezing it with this blackout period. There's no sunshine. There's no one who can file a complaint. And I just think it's irresponsible for the House to put that on the ballot. If they want that in the Constitution, a blackout period, let them put it as a separate question.
Well, the Ethics Commission themselves are saying, listen, don't do this.
Yes.
We can handle it internally with
Yes.
our regulations.
The testimony,
Right?
yes,
Yeah.
the testimony
They
from
said,
the.
don't put it in the Constitution. You put it in the Constitution, it's really hard to change.
That's right.
But we can handle it internally to take care of the frivolous complaints.
Yes, yes. And, you know, I don't know of very many situations where these frivolous complaints ever affected the outcome of an election. When I was testifying before Judiciary, I just asked the members of the Judiciary Committee, are you familiar with a situation where a so-called frivolous complaint really had a profound outcome on an election? And they all, no one could think of one.
It could happen. It could happen, but if the Ethics Commission themselves says, we can handle it internally.
Right.
Right? We can write regulations
Right.
around it. I mean, I'm always aware of the Friday night specials, you know, those at
Right.
the Friday before the election, the postcard comes in the mail that you as a candidate can't refute. There's not enough time. But the Ethics Commission could deal with that. They don't have to.
You're right. You're right. But that makes yet another good point about this this so-called blackout, the period where we're going to prevent so-called frivolous complaints. Look, nothing that we put in the Constitution can ever stop people from exercising their First Amendment rights the night before the election. You know, the Sunday night special where they leaflet an entire neighborhood. That's going to take place anyway.
Anyway,
no matter what we do.
every election.
And frankly, I think that is far more effective in winning or losing an election than is some ethics complaint that has to be scrutinized by the commission.
Let me ask you this. It was my understanding that there are some states that have blackout periods, but they're very short.
Yeah,
Is that right? Did you hear that in the testimony?
I believe that the other states, and there aren't that
It's
many.
not 120 days.
No.
It's like
And
30 days or something.
It's much shorter, but I think the best point is the one made by the Ethics Commission. This is something that simply doesn't belong in the Constitution. You know, our Constitution right now protects people's rights to exercise their right to petition for their grievances, to exercise free speech. We're taking all of that with this blackout, throwing it right out the window.
Well, at least
It's a
at least
really-
for 4 months, you're not allowed to
Yeah.
have those rights.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we should call it the Black Eye Amendment. I mean, it really is a bad, it's going to put a black eye on our Constitution. And we really, I think the people of the state deserve something better to vote on.
Now, Common Cause has always been in the forefront. They helped you
Yes.
with separation of powers. What did
Yes.
they think about the blackout period?
Testified against it.
They did testify against it.
They acknowledged that there can be a problem there, but they, like the Ethics Commission, advocated to keep it out of the Constitution. In other words, don't put it on the ballot as a question. Just put the question of the people, do you want legislators subject to the Ethics Commission? And then I believe Common Cause's testimony through John Marion and I think Phil West was that if there is a problem, let the Ethics Commission deal with it separately by statute, not putting it in the Constitution. So that to me is the wiser idea, although I'm not in favor of any blackout period, even by statute.
I am just hoping it comes through as a clean bill. Let the people decide whether they want us subject to it or not, and let the Ethics Commission handle the dangers.
Yes. Well, you know.
Internally. But we're going to have to take a break right now. We'll come right back.
Thank you.